Well, everybody, you are in for a treat today. While I was in Las Vegas and at the AIFD Symposium, I finally had the chance to meet Ace Berry, and I am excited to welcome him. And while I got to meet him, I got to meet another one of his good friends that has a fun story how they met. I can't wait to hear this. Patience, you both of you, welcome to the Flower Podcast.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I really appreciate you guys, carving out some time because I know both of you have really busy schedules. And so we always like to start kind of at the beginning. And with two of you, just if you can give us kind of the short story, how did you get into the world of flowers? And then Ace, I'd love to hear how you met Patience because I feel like there's a little drama there. So,
Oh no.
Patience, you go ahead, ladies first, of how you got into flowers.
Oh, how I got into flowers. It was very I was working at a residential home for troubled youth. And my sister called me, who had been working part-time at another flower shop in town. And she's like, hey, do you want to buy a flower shop? Because one in our town had went bankrupt. And I'm like, okay. I knew nothing. And yeah, so we bought it together. And then within a year, she found out she was having another little baby. So she's like, I'm out, have fun. So
oh my
that was
gosh,
interesting.
she
But
bailed
that
on you.
was, yeah, she bailed, but that's okay. I mean, because of her, I got into this industry that I love. But yeah, that was in January. It'll be 25 years, which is crazy to me.
Okay, so you don't look more than 27. So I don't
No,
know.
I
You must have been
love
two.
you.
You must have been 2 years old when you did all that, which is amazing. Well, that's awesome. And so now, what? I mean, it's so funny because the other day it's kind of like I feel like I just met you, which I did like a month ago. But then
Yeah.
I saw you. I've seen you on social media at different places, like not following you, but like, oh, there's Patience, and oh, there's Patience again. So, what all do you do besides have your flower shop?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm busy. I've got my flower shop, which is my baby, and I love dearly. But I'm kind of turning that over to my manager and doing more of the education part of my life that I'm super, super crazy passionate about. And recently I was hired by I don't know if I should say the name. I don't know what the rules are here, but
You're good.
okay, by Kennecott Wholesale. And I love that company, and they hired me to kind of do their education and a little help with their social media, that kind of thing. So that's been really exciting. And I've been traveling a lot for them. And you can I do weekly videos for them, and I post them on their Kennecott pages, plus on my personal page, The Business of Flowers and Design, which is just kind of a fun page that I give free business advice and design advice and all the things that Ace will say this too. We are where we are today because of our mentors and people that helped us
Mm.
along. So it's kind of just a paying it forward kind of page. And then, of course, Ace and I own Inspired Design Floral Retreats, which is a lot of fun. And we do a lot with that as well.
Well, I can't wait to hear more about that later. Because I know that just hearing about that in Vegas, I got really excited about that. Ace, okay, so how did you fall into this wonderful world of petals?
2007, I got laid off from the oil field, and I kind of sat back and told myself I wanted to do something meaningful and purposeful in my life. And when I was 19 years old, I got bit by a flower bug in Victoria, Texas. And I kind of just came back to that I always remember how people looked at me when I would deliver flowers. At their worst, I was still making them smile. And I just kind of decided I was going to throw every egg that I had into that basket, and I was going to become a florist.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2000. I got laid off in February 22nd of 2007, and I did my very first arrangement as a florist in a flower shop on November 10th of 2007.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and now you own a shop. Is
I
that the
do.
same shop or is this a new shop?
No. So I bought a failing flower shop in 2016, and I'd already met Patience, I think, in 2013, and I just kind of I always knew that I wanted to own a flower shop, and just kind of found the right area and started kind of looking at different demographics and how projected growth patterns were going to happen for the Houston area. And I kind of landed on where my flower shop is now. I said, well, this is the spot. And, you know, the houses around it were the high, you know, between 400 to $1 million. So I was like, this is the spot. This is where we're going to do it at.
That's awesome.
So,
and that helps to be in an area that has some cash flow.
It does. I looked at it very, very closely. Like because you never want to put it, you know, do something and then you're having to dump a ton of money, especially when you're first starting out. So
Sure. So how did you two meet then? And you said 2013?
2013.
Oh, boy.
So the very first time I'd ever met patients, we were Teleflora unit presidents together, and we were in Burbank. And just kind of, I remember, honestly, the first thing I ever kind of told her was, I was like, man, who's this lady from South Dakota that has all these initials that I want? And, you know, we just kind of knew of each other. And then the very next year, which would be, was it 2004? No, that's 2012 actually that we met. 2013, we were heading back to Burbank because it's a 2-year term, and she and I got our plane got it got canceled, but we got onto another plane, and I got on the plane and she didn't get on. But we had 2 other florists that were ed specs there, so I was like, well, I'll stay with her, and it got me out of having to do a speech. So I was like, and so, as I always tell the story, is that I saved her life. I didn't want someone to steal her in the Denver airport. So I was, you know, my good Southern hospitality was to save her life.
Thank God for Ace, or I would not be here alive, breathing today. I mean, what would I have done in that airport all by myself?
Oh, I know. I mean,
for 8 hours.
To have a personal bodyguard. I mean, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Well, you know, and so of course we all met, 3 of us met in Vegas at the AIFD Symposium. And honestly, okay, so it's so funny. There's so many people there I knew, and then there's people there I'm like, oh gosh, I recognize them, or oh, I know them for this or whatever. And of course, you know, having seen you, Ace, on In Full Bloom, the HBO thing, was really fun that first season, and of course being, you know, like the number 2 guy in that show, that was pretty awesome. I, you know, have wanted to have you on the podcast, so meeting you and patients there was really great. So confession time. I didn't know you were an AIFD member. And so, you know, because I don't think they talked about that on the show.
No, they didn't. So there were actually 3 AIFD members on the show, myself, Adam Ledoux, and Beth. And they did not want us to talk about it because they wanted up and coming florists. And if they knew that we all kind of knew what we were doing, it didn't give the show what they needed. So we got told kind of not to talk about it a lot.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, it's kind of funny because some people you just see and you're like watching them in that dynamic and you're like, okay, this person, it kind of shows. I mean, you can kind of see that, I mean, not that there was any bad designers, but you can just see some, like, they think outside the box a little differently than others might have. So anyway, well, you know, one of the things I was really excited about when we were there in Vegas was seeing, of course, we had a couple years worth of inductees to, you know, welcome on stage and to celebrate, but was seeing all of the new young people that, you know, are still excited about being a member of this organization and everything. And I just kind of thought, you know, since you guys, how long have you guys been in AIFD?
I was inducted in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I was inducted in 2011 or 12. I don't have the memory Ace does. He remembers all the details, which is horrible when we get into a fight because, like, yeah.
Yeah,
He always wins.
he's the file cabinet person, right? He's got everything.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not a file cabinet person either. My wife is
Me
though.
neither.
So
I want to say she was I think you're 2011 patients.
Thanks, Ace.
So anyway, so you guys have been in the organization for a while and, have been part of it. I don't know. For me, it was exciting just seeing all these new people and seeing a lot of younger people there. And it was my first symposium, so I kind of didn't know what to expect. And I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that, and especially in trying to bring more people, into that organization or to understand what it's about.
I'll let you go ahead, patients.
Are you sure? I don't always have to go first.
So what I'll say is, like, I love seeing the influx of youth, and not even just youth, just people that are enthusiastic about flowers, and where the future of floral design, because of the pandemic, flowers are finally getting their just due, where
Yes.
people are not just going, oh, they're just going to die, they're just this or that. Now people are actually seeing, and by people I mean like civilians that are not in the floral industry, they are finally seeing the health benefits that flowers can bring to your life, and just how to, everything that they have, like, they're just pretty. No one's ever just went up to a flower and been like, oh, I hate this flower. And I mean, even a carnation, is a beautiful flower. So I think that education, what AIFD brings is the good education, but we have to have people that are willing to stand on the mountain and on the soapbox and scream it and really show that it's a great industry and that it's not dying. Because for a lot of years we all heard like, oh, the floral industry is dying and this and those things, and it's alive and well and it's kicking.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I agree too. And what I find, I agree with everything Ace just said. I hate it when people say you can't make money in the floral industry. And I'm like, I have 3 spoiled children and a spoiled husband that will beg to differ, because you definitely can make money in the floral industry. But honestly, that's not why I'm in it. Like, I get so much joy from flowers. What I love about Symposium every year, and you probably noticed this, Scott, is, did you go to the students reception?
I did.
Okay. And did it blow your mind? Like,
Yeah.
some of the designs most of the designs in there. And I think what's really cool is, so Ace and I are old and we've been in the industry forever. I'm older than Ace, but you get set in your ways, even though we're both like super serious about education and we take classes ourselves even and learn from other people. You kind of get set in your ways, like, just like with any job, well, it's always been done this way, or we don't do it that way. Where the students are fearless and they'll just like, oh, well, I'm going to bend this wire this way and use this flower this way, even though like it's not usually done that way. And it ends up to be something super fabulous, where all of us people that are well seasoned are looking at and going, wow, that's really cool. Why didn't I ever think of that? So to me, like, walking through the student competition is always like, and Ace and I will do that, be like, did you see that girl's headpiece over there? Holy cow, And so, yeah, the young people are definitely the future of our industry. And it shows the most, I think, at AIFD.
I totally agree. And I was really excited because I'll be honest, I wasn't that attuned to the student level programs through AIFD like that. And I don't really even understand that. And maybe that's something we could talk about briefly. I know that when I was walking around, I was so excited to see so many young people. I think I walked up to almost every table and I didn't care. Some tables might have been harder, but I was trying to find something positive to say about because there is something positive to see in almost everyone's work. And it was just great to see them light up and see how proud they were of what they did. And, and that's not easy to put yourself out there and, especially in the room with all of these incredible pros and all the talent and all of these people that, have been doing this for different levels of time, but still just are, on stage. And, these are the people that are judging you and are looking at evaluating your work. And And it was just, I don't know, I just really was excited about that. So how does that work with the student programs? Because I think that is a good opportunity if people are in those areas where those schools are or those programs are.
Yeah, I think Ace would be good to talk on this. I know that he has, and you can explain it better than I can, Ace, but you've helped with some of the students getting ready for
Yeah.
symposium, correct?
Yes. So the student competition is trying to figure the best way to kind of talk about it. It's it's kids that are, they shouldn't even say kids, they're young adults that are passionate. Honestly, they're just passionate about flowers. And they're either horticulture majors, and I've seen some that are actually engineering students and all
Wow.
kinds of stuff that have decided like, hey, this is not the route I need to go, but I have an engineering degree, and that are wanting to become florist. I personally have two of Texas A&M's students, and one is getting a accounting degree and accounting and business, and she is going to end up buying my flower shop one day. And if she doesn't, I have one that is getting a engineering horticulture degree, and she already told her parents, I don't want to do anything with plants anymore. I just want to do flowers.
Wow.
And I mean, it just speaks the volumes of flowers and the power that they have. So I think these kids, man, I shouldn't even say kids again. These young adults, I get energized by them. Like I've went to New Mexico State and helped them out. I went to Mizzou and helped them out. And I love watching them. I love watching their fearlessness,
Mm.
because I think once you're a professional and you have to take your PFDE test to get in. We are so controlled, and we kind of design with our head instead of our heart. And these young adults, they design with all heart, and
Mm.
they throw everything out, and it's just all passion and all heart, and it's going at 100 miles an hour. And to me, I just love that. I love the whole process that they do. And when I see their work, I get super excited, and I'm just like it amazes me.
Wow, that's really cool. And I mean, and to me, that's hopeful. I mean, that's really hopeful because, sometimes we go through the same routines all the time. And I hate to use the word burnout because sometimes I think it's overused, but I do feel like a lot of times it gives us fresh eyes to look through and to see it and kind of remember, we used to be like that too. And I think that's cool. So, well, that's really great. So as far as AIFD, I know like next year it's going to be in Chicago, and I don't know very much about it. I don't know if y'all know anything about it. Do you?
Uh, I
Yeah.
know a little. Patience knows a little. I mean, I know a little bit of a little bit.
Well, this is going to be a tough act to follow, so I'm really excited to see what happens next year. So
Well,
there's so much.
Patience is actually doing a hands-on class next year.
Oh wow, how
I
exciting!
am, yeah.
That's
So
so cool. Well, I don't know. I just think next year is going to be even more incredible because it was just so excited to see all the new people that were inducted. And I think that'll be really great. One of the things I wanted to talk, with both of you about, since you guys have been in the business for a little while, is, having flower shops, having this heart for education. I know I get asked this all the time about where, if they want to learn, and maybe they're doing this on the side because they have a day job. Where would you direct people nowadays to really go to get learning um, for themselves? Like, where do they start? Where would be a good place to start?
um, I would say, like, for me, when I started, I combed, at the time it was MySpace. MySpace was the big one. But then literally Facebook kind of took over within like a year and a half of me starting in the industry. But I would analyze everyone's pictures that they were putting on the internet, and I would just study it. And I've always said that I'm not the most talented, but I am one of the most obsessed. And I wanted to know, and I wanted to learn how to do all those things.
Mhm.
And then as I got more submerged into the floral industry, I found out like for me, like Texas State Floral Association. And I took my very first hands-on class I ever took was from Bert Ford. And I remember sitting in this class and thinking to myself, like, oh, I found my people. This is what I'm meant to do. And then I just kind of kept studying and found different designers that, again, kind of like patients that had, initials behind their name. And I'm like, I wanted to study with them. I wanted to be considered one of the best at one point. And that's kind of how I started all of it. And then I met Patience, and she just became one of my mentors. And I would send her pictures as I was studying for AIFD, and I would just tell her, she would say, oh, this is good. And I would get mad at her. I would say, no, it's not. Tell me everything that's wrong with it. Like, I didn't care how good it was. I wanted to know everything that was wrong because I wanted to get that much better. So as far as education, I would find a good mentor is where I would be the first thing I would find is a good mentor. Someone that's going to be honest with you too.
Was that hard?
I was honest. I'm just Midwest nice. So I would agree with what he said. Oh God, I hate saying that, but I do agree with what he said. But I would add, for me, the state association, like volunteer, like even if you are sweeping floors in the design room, guess what? You're picking up some really interesting tips and tricks and techniques from whoever's there designing. So I know I volunteered for everything. And then pretty soon you're designing with these big name designers, and they remember you, and they then at that point, like, they're making opportunities happen for you. So if you can volunteer at your state association, and there is nothing better than on the job training, like, even if it needs to be a part-time just during the holidays or whatever, if you can get into a flower shop, just even part-time, and we are all looking for help right now. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's the best way to learn. And going online, like Ace said, just make sure there's a lot of super amazing designers out there putting out videos and tutorials and stuff. But there's also just a few that you have to be careful that maybe don't quite have the knowledge that they're putting themselves out there. So if something looks like, oh, I've never seen it done that way, or I wonder if that's right, then maybe reach out to someone that that you trust as a designer, or your local florist or whatever. But most of what's out there is pretty dang good to look at. And like Ace said, you can, even TikToks, man, just hit, follow the floral people. There's some really cool stuff out there. So I know before I go to bed every night, I'm like creeping on all the social media platforms and just like looking at everybody's work, because there are so many good designers out there right now.
Yeah. Yes,
and
really is.
I would say a lot. Don't just say that you have to be AIFD or whatever, because there's a lot of like talented designers out there that have no initials behind their name. Like one here in Texas is Fabian Salcedo.
Oh my gosh,
like,
so good.
Like amazing. He just competed for the Gateways to the Americas. Amazing designer, like probably one of the best. I will go on a soapbox and say that he's probably one of the best in Texas. And like he's always solid, like his designs always, and just he thinks outside the box. So you're always going to be inspired by something that he does.
So. Wow. Well, I'll have to check that out. I have not heard of him before.
Oh, he's good.
But that's
another
really
one
exciting.
Is like Renee Polarice in South Dakota, and Mitchell, South Dakota. I've went on record many times, said she's probably one of the best florists I know, and she's in South Dakota, and like she's so quiet about everything. Kelsey Thompson, Thompson, she's another one that like, and when you see these, like, especially like, sorry, Gus is, he hears a cat outside. Kelsey and Renee, like moms and business owners and everything. And then you see them design, you're just like, holy smokes. It's so unassuming is the way I always put it with
the
them.
Quiet ones. It's the quiet ones.
Well, that's so awesome. But I think that's a good point. And I appreciate you, saying that, because I know it's hard to evaluate when you don't have the background. Like okay, is this somebody to look at, and mentioning some names. And of course, y'all are great people to follow as well. And just to kind of see, kind of out there, and that kind of, there's so many things I want to talk about. But I do want to mention that the partnership you guys have through the Inspired Design retreats. I feel like that. I mean, I know we were talking about that at dinner, and I was like blown away because of the kind of stuff that you try to create and provide as a learning experience. And the value of it was crazy also, I thought, what a great opportunity. Do you have to be at any particular level to come to something like that you host? Is it like beginners or people that have at least, have a few bouquets under their belt, so to speak?
So patience, what's the most seasoned person that we've ever had?
I love that you say seasoned. Probably in the industry, 35 years down to never touched.
We for the one that we are hosting in October in Hilton Head, we have a high school student that we gave a scholarship to. That she's going to be a senior in high school. And I met her, I called Patience, and I said, we should give a scholarship to this girl. She is a senior, she's going to be a senior in high school from Silsbee, Texas. And she knows that that's what she wants to do. She wants to do flowers, and she's going to come. Never worked in a flower shop, and she's on the floral team at her high school. So, I mean, that range between, high school florist to seasoned veteran.
That's incredible.
There's a big gap.
And it's such a cool thing too. We've hosted many of these 3-day retreats, and like by the second day, even in the first day, like they're best friends and they're helping each other and they're just building each other up. And it's just like a beautiful thing to witness, honestly. I mean, when we're done with the retreat, people are like crying. Ace and I are like, we don't want you to leave. It's like, it becomes like a family thing after spending 3.5 days together, just like doing what we all love to do. It's a pretty magical thing that we've created. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, I think it take going from a concept when we first started, because we started out in a wholesale house, and then to come into a concept of saying, all right, we need to make it destination spots, where, because a lot of this is where people are taking their vacation time.
True.
They're choosing their vacation to spend their vacation with us, learning how to do what they're passionate about. So when we come up with a concept to kind of travel, it made it logistically a little bit of a nightmare at the beginning, but we've gotten better at it. And then we just wanted to honestly give back to an industry that gave us what we have still today. And also wanted to prove to people that you can have a community over a competition. Like, some of my best friends are here in the Houston area, and yes, they're technically my competitors, but they're also my friends, and we're also a community that we need to strengthen. And there's power in numbers. And that's what we always need to kind of remember. And that's what I feel like that Patience and I kind of created, where we have this power in numbers.
I think it's interesting too with the floral industry is my sister's a realtor, and she said to me one time, and I hadn't really ever thought of it this way. She's like, wow, this is the same sister that like deserted me a year into our business, by the way, who I love. Hi, Carrie. But she said, like, the floral industry is the only industry I know of that people are like, oh, I have this knowledge. Here you go, take it, and it's a lot of the other industries. It's like, I know something, but I'm going to hold it tight and I'm not going to share it because I don't want anyone else to have this knowledge or this power or whatever. And I think florists are huge about like, oh, you need help learning how to do that? Here, let me show you, or give you this advice, or, this is a good way to do it, or an easier way to do it, or, and I think that's pretty special in the floral industry that you don't see in other industries as much.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because certain parts of the country, I feel like, are not all areas are the same with this. And I know in Atlanta, I felt like there was a period of time where it wasn't that way. I think it's more so now than it used to be. but I feel like a lot of times I get concerned because some of the people that are the most protective of their intellectual property, if you will, I feel like sometimes, I don't know. I feel like in a way those walls of protection also hinder your own personal growth.
For sure.
They
I
do.
don't, and I feel like if when you give of what you have, it's funny how things flow in to replace that, I think, and to help you develop even more. You guys know better about that than I do, but that's just sort of my perspective, just being on the outside watching the world of floristry in general.
I think you're
Right.
spot on that because I've seen it like when I've traveled to, I mean, California's kind of like that. There's really a lot of good florists out there that are giving, but there's a lot of them that are out there that are not as giving. And I've always said that I'm going to give whatever I have. I mean, at the end of the day, Patience always kind of jokes with me. I want to leave my mark. I want to leave a legacy of when they're reading my obituary one day that they're like, that guy gave everything he had to this industry to teach whoever, like, that's what I want. You know, that's who I am. And I just want people to love it as much as I love it. So
But can I also roast you?
yeah, go ahead.
Ooh, I like this. This might be fun.
No, Ace is very passionate about the industry. And I think that's what honestly all like however many years ago, 9, 10 years ago, like drew us to each other. It wasn't, the Bloody Marys in the Denver bar, or it was like the fact that we were both so passionate about it. Like,
Sure.
even though like owning a business is like one of the most stressful things in the world,
Yeah.
there is not a day that I don't wake up and I'm like excited to go to work. Like there's something happening that day, some arrangement I'm making, some client I'm meeting with, some vignette I'm working on that I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to get to work today. And that's crazy after 25 years. Like that's crazy. And I tell myself if I'm ever like not excited to go to work or not excited to open up my flower shipment, like it's definitely time to go. And thank God I'm not there yet because it's still super exciting for me.
Mhm.
Hmm. I appreciate you sharing that too, because I can see where, especially you two, if you are on that same level, it's like you found somebody you speak the same language.
Yes.
And we when we speak, we sometimes we speak very loudly at each other.
But seriously though, like my husband is the best. Like he's the greatest man, but like he gets this look and his eyes glaze over when I start talking about flowers, kind of like when he starts talking about fishing. And it's like, yes, dear. But like me and Ace can talk about flowers for hours and he isn't like, will you shut up about flowers? So it is when you find that floral tribe and like, I
Yes.
think that's what's so great about Inspired Design or Symposium or any of those floral activities. It's like they're your people and they
Mhm.
understand that excitement about everything that has
Yeah.
anything to do with flowers.
It gives you that
Absolutely.
community from the start. Like it, it's a community. It's like a hand selected community for you that just, okay, these are your people and they're going to ride with you. They're going to be your people forever now. Um, like I said, some of my best friends, I've known some people for literally the better part of 25 years that never knew my first name, and flower people know my first name. And I'm like, do not tell anyone what my first name is.
I'll tell you, Scott. I'll
It's
tell you.
okay. I think I saw it when we were signing
Yes.
up on Zoom, and so I feel special now, more special than I did before. So
Yeah.
that's
I,
awesome.
I also equate to this, like, I don't know how y'all are with like Facebook. I'm very like, when I have to add people to Facebook, if you're a florist, you get an instant add as a friend. I've known also people for 30 years and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want them to be my friend on Facebook anymore. So I literally, like, people I actually know to people I've never met. I'm like, people I've never met that are florists, I'm like, instantly we are friends.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually know who you are and went to high school with you. I'm not sure about this right now.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That
Yeah.
is hilarious. I know, because a lot of times people will ask me, And I'm like, oh, they know like 109 people that are already following. I'm like, okay, they must be good. So
Yeah. They have flowers on their page.
yeah,
I
that's
trust
exactly
them.
right.
They're good people.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, you mentioned this a second ago, Patience, and I'd love to ask both of you because it's not often I have the opportunity to speak with two people that have flower shops on an episode, and I'm kind of curious. I'd love to hear. I mean, not love because it happened, but was there a challenging time that that stands out to you? And because I always feel like in these moments there's other people going through this stuff, okay, that we can benefit from your wisdom and mentorship and experience.
Yeah. I mean, are you talking business wise? Yes.
Yeah, mostly business, like from the flower
Yeah.
shop side of it.
I would say like in the 25, 24 years I've been in business, there's been two times that really stood out for me. One was the 2008 recession.
Yes.
There was 4 flower shops in my town at that time. And I remember like having to go to my banker and getting a operating loan, which I'd never done even from day one. It- I just felt like such a failure. And I
Mm.
remember talking to my banker about it, and he's like, no, 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 you need to look at it differently. Like, you need to look at it like you've gone 10 years without needing this. And he said, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, recessions, and this might be good because I feel like, not to be a
Yeah.
Debbie Downer, but there could possibly, maybe, we hope not, be one looming. But I remember him saying, like, recessions are good for good businesses. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's
Mm.
like, it's the strong businesses that survive the recession. And it's the ones undercutting everyone else and not doing things correctly. They won't survive the recession. And he was right. By the end of the recession, there wasn't 4 flower shops in town, there was one. And so, like, it wasn't easy, but I mean, and Ace, you can, chime in on this too. When COVID hit, like, it was scary to be in business. Like, literally, you did not know, am I going to lose something I've worked for 20 years on? And so that again was super scary for me, but I just kept that advice in my head, and I thought, I'm just going to hustle like I've never hustled, and I'm going to do things differently, because you have to pivot, right? You have to do online sales and all the things. And there were so many good florists out there that were doing things and helping each other and just keeping each other's spirits up. But that was a really scary time for me too. But again, if you look at it, every business that survived COVID is so much stronger and so much better for having survived it. Like, you grew and learned so much during those 2 years. But those two times really stand out of like, ooh, that was tough. That was scary.
What was one thing that you did for your business that maybe helped you be more sound or more, you know what I'm saying? Like that you were able to do that made a difference during that
Um,
time.
During COVID,
No, during like that first recession.
the recession, I really just looked at everything. You always should be looking, oh, don't get me started on business tips because I will bore you to death. But like, you should always know exactly what your cost of goods sold are and what all your expenses, what's your payroll, what's your utilities, how much of a percentage of that is your income, and or are you taking out of your income? And so I looked at all of that with a fine tooth comb. I mean, I changed from something as small as changing phone companies, and saving maybe $50 a month. But if you do 10 things that are saving you $50 a month, and maybe
Right.
you push back payroll 20%, you work more hours yourself, maybe cut down. Do you need the delivery driver there all day long, or can you maybe get by with them working 10 to 2 so they can take morning deliveries and afternoon deliveries? Um, just lots of little things, really buying a lot smarter, and which I still do to this day. And, I've got like out there somewhere on my business of flowers and design, I've got the the videos where I talk about like the 3 keys to success, and it really truly is just 3 when it comes right down to it. And it's the first one is buying smart. Like you have to buy smart, and not just flowers, but hard goods, everything. And so I really looked at that, every little thing that I spent money on. And we are all florists. We all have the back room that's full of stuff, like super full of stuff. You pull that out and you refigure it and you think, okay, how can I make this sellable, or how can I mark it down and sell it? Like, how can I make money today with what I already have? And you buy the bare minimum. You buy fresh flowers and you use up the vases that you've had in the back that maybe aren't your favorite or people returned. I know, Ace, you're a big recycler with vases, and there's so many ways. And even to this day, summertime's slow for flower shops.
Sure.
Unless you have a wedding or a funeral, summertime is slow. So in the summertime, I put myself on a freezing or I spending freeze. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I do that every summer now for 3 months. So I'm only buying, like, try not to buy vases, try to use up what I have. I'm buying flowers very, very thoughtfully, thinking ahead of next week. What are my specials going to be? Can I buy these hydrangeas in box lots and save money that way? And then all my specials will have hydrangeas or whatever. So all the things that you learn during tough times, you carry them forward, and it just makes you a better business person.
Mm, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's a practical, very practical advice. Ace, your turn.
So I haven't had to do the recession thing. I had COVID in March of 2020. We filmed Full Bloom twice. So we all got sent home as COVID popped off in March. And when I got back to Houston, pretty much all of my employees were gone except for one. They had all, like, I knew they were gonna have to get laid off. So I was very scared that everything that I'd ever worked for and every egg that I'd ever had, I'd thrown into the floral basket, and that it was going to disappear. And in Texas, they were trying to say that flower shops were unessential. And through all of that, I refused to take it. I told myself, I was like, no, there's ways around this. And I actively looked for the ways around what they were telling me. So I looked at it as, I have an ag license to sell plants. I'm essential. If they go that route, then I went into I sell snack baskets. I deliver food to people that this might be their only food that they get to eat this week. So you can't tell me to close. I went as far as one of my clients is a senator, and I sent him paperwork. I was like, what am I missing? He was like, he literally sent me a message back, said, Ace, pay very close attention to their wording and make their wording work for you. And their wording was, do you provide a service? And instantly, as soon as I saw, do you provide a service? I was like, I provide a service. And he was like, therefore you're essential. So I stayed open the entire time. And then when the wholesaler shut down, I started learning how to buy from farms that were US farms all over the place. I started going direct to Ecuador and buying in flowers that way. I was not going to go down without a fight. And so during those times when people were not buying flowers for pretty much April was the toughest month. I told myself, I was like, okay, parents are stuck at home with their kids. That's a lot to be stuck at home with kids that are in school that are very hyper. Now they can't go out and play with their friends. They can't do any of those things. So I was like, I'm going to create a video and sell kids kits. So I took a bunch of smiley face mugs that I had left over. I think I had like 80 of them. And I made a video of and literally a step-by-step video that I made it last 45 minutes of making an arrangement. And I sold kids kits, and I would go drop them off at these parents' house. And then I would literally send them the video to set your kid down in front of an iPad so they can make a flower arrangement, just so the parents could have peace of mind for an hour. So I just went about it all those different directions and just kind of refused to go down without a fight. And next thing you know, like, I'm expecting 2020 to be my worst year in business, and it was my best year that I'd ever had. In the middle of COVID, I had the best sales I'd ever had, best May I'd ever had, best July I'd ever had. Like, my sales were just steadily increasing. And then I expected the fallout in 21, and I exceeded it from 2020. I expected the fallout in 22, and I'm exceeding that one. So I'm like, okay. So I just kind of build into customer service. Customer service was honestly, I think, what saved my business through COVID, was being very good at customer service, listening to the needs and figuring out how to make it happen without saying no. Because here's the thing, when people hear the word no, they instantly want to go somewhere else to shop. So I never said no. I was like, hey, I'll figure it out for you. Or if it's something I didn't have, I wouldn't say no. I'd be like, well, we don't have all the exact things, but I can make you something beautiful, and I'll send you a picture of it just to make sure you love it before we deliver it. So I tried to go the extra mile with customer service, and it just kind of benefited me through the long term now.
I love that. One of the things I thought about as I hear both of you adapt and rise to the occasion in these situations is I think back to a long time ago, and actually not that long time ago, of when I would hear a lot of flower shops get frustrated over the fact that the grocery store sold flowers, or Costco sells arrangements, and all these different other avenues of ways to get flowers. And that would frustrate a lot of them. But yet, like, I hear these stories about, patients, how your business has done well, and your kids and husband are grateful. And I hear how you're having some of the best years you've had, just through all of this, difficult time. And I just think, what advice would you have, for those people? Like, to me, I feel like it's a mindset thing, but I don't know how to word that, I guess.
Here's what I would say about, like, grocery stores or anything like that. That's not your clientele. Right. Understand that from the start. It's not your clientele. Your clientele is something different. Grocery store is a guy that's walking in just to try to get flowers for his wife or his partner or her partner. Just, that's like a pickup, spontaneous buy. The clientele you want is like, hey, my daughter's getting married, my son's getting married, we have a birthday party. You want the big events. You want the big time celebrations that are in their life. You don't want and what happens is, when you get those smaller, the events, they start thinking of you for all the spontaneous events. But if you focus on things that you can't, honestly, you can't do anything about that, so you're wasting your time and energy focusing on those things. Understand from the start, that's not your clientele. I've always said that, hey, it's not my clientele, and I'm not going to be the cheapest. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be one of these things, but it's going to be the best. It's not going to be the cheapest. But you're going to love what you get, and it's going to last a long time. And I'm going to go the extra mile for you. So that's what I would tell people, not to even focus on it. Just kind of find your clientele, find your niche, and run with that. Put your energy and your positivity into that.
Yeah, I agree again, Ace. Dang it. I hate saying that. I'm just kidding. I agree with what you say. And to add on to that, I would say, like, if they're buying flowers, why are we upset, right? I don't care where you get your flowers. I mean, I prefer you buy them from me, but in reality, if you're buying flowers, yay. You look at Cal Flowers, what is their motto? Something like, encouraging more Americans to buy more flowers more often, or whatever. If maybe I don't know, it's just, you're buying flowers. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, buy them from me, hopefully. But honestly, as long as you're buying flowers, you're taking flowers home to your wife, taking them home for your little girl, or taking them home for your husband, whatever. I don't care. Buy flowers. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. And Ace is correct. That's not our customers. I can do wrapped flower specials. I'll tell you, they don't sell that great because people are coming in to my store and Ace's store and everyone else's because they want a designed arrangement. They don't want to have to do the work. Um, I have people come in all the time and buy giftware and say, for a, decor or something for an item for gifts or flowers or whatever. And they'll be like, can you put a picket fence sticker on it? I want them to know that it came from you,
Oh,
and I'm not the
Mhm.
cheapest. But again, like, I'm going to give the best quality product for the best price.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, that kind of stuff does not bother me at all. That when I am somewhere and I see someone walking out of a grocery store or the big box store with a bouquet of wrapped flowers in their hands, I always smile. I'm like, yes, they're buying flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me too. Like I there's I do a thing down here. So we have Trader Joe's that are close to me. And every year that they get in peonies, I go buy every one of their peonies. Every one of them. And everybody's like, why? And I always say it's because I want to control the market area, the market price for my area. So I'm also adding in value to Trader Joe's, which buys a ton of flowers, and helping them out. I'm still pumping money into my area, but then I'm also now being able to offer my clients and my clientele peonies at a decent price where it's not, where I'm having to buy them sometimes at $5 to $10 a stem and having to sell them for 20. Now I'm being able to offer it a little bit better. So I always also try to pay it forward for my clients because I want them to have the best. But I go to grocery stores like when I need something, I'm like, oh man, hold on, get over there and look for this. This looks bad, and let's just see what they have. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, to be honest.
sure, sure. Well, and I appreciate you both saying that because I think you're right. And when it comes down to it, they're buying flowers, like you both have
Mhm.
said. I do think, though, with y'all's background and bringing it back to AIFD, I feel like the one thing I always think about, and the one thing I always shared with people when they were, just telling me how they felt, um, is the service. You're providing a service. You're providing a more polished product. It's like you can go home and make cupcakes, or a birthday cake. But if you want something special, what do? You go to a bakery, or
Yeah.
wherever. And I feel like this is the added value that a design, coming from professionals brings, that you just can't go pull off of a big box store shelf.
Right.
True. That's, yep.
And I think if you look at like European countries, floral design is looked at as an art form. And I think we're getting there in America, but we're not there yet. But I
No.
think people are starting to respect and appreciate the artistry behind floral design. And it's different than something that you pick up in a grocery store. But there's nothing wrong with picking it up in the grocery store. But when it needs to be super special and when it needs to be special, they're going to come to the flower shop versus
Right.
the wrapped bouquets. And I think we are getting there, like Ace's show or the HBO Max show, stuff like that, Symposium, your podcast, stuff like that. People are starting to look at floral design as an art form. It's just about educating your customers.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
difference between buying oh God, I'm not a car person, but tell me, like, a Honda, is that a bad car? I don't know. It's like the difference between that and like a Cadillac. You get what you pay for, and if it needs to be special and important, I mean, they're gonna go to the professional.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I think that gosh, I feel like we're running out of time. I'm feeling pressure here. I want to make sure, I'm excited that people like both of you who are so passionate about our industry are now kind of pivoting and doing more educational type things, whether it's business or design or a combination. I do want to take a second and the your Inspired Design retreat that's coming up with Hilton Head. Tell us a little more about that, so people who might wonder about it, where can they go to find more information, and maybe just highlight kind of what you do and the value that it is.
So it's in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It was started to give florists that were like Patience and I a chance to really get the good education, because when you're a florist, you're not making hand over fist money when you first start out.
Right.
And so I mean, when I first started, I made $9 an hour. So every penny was accounted for me to find educational stuff. And there's some things that I wanted to take that I just couldn't afford. And so when Patience and I met, we wanted something that was to give back to an industry that gave to us literally our livelihood, and
Right.
to pay it forward to these young designers and, seasoned designers and brand new designers, that they can feel good when they leave, that they have that sense of community. They have stuff that can help get their business launched. The whole thing is like, when we first started Inspired Design, we didn't have photographers in there to take pictures or anything like that. It was just helping them learn how to design and be better business. And then we sat back and saw a need that people were trying to find. They were dumping, I know this is personal, like my personal thing, I was dumping like $1,500 to $3,000 into style shoots. And there's sometimes that I was walking away with no images that I could use. Mm. And to see that need, and to see, your fellow florists that need that. And when Patient and I talked about it, I was like, this is something we need. And we sat there and discussed it and really tried to build something that fit that need, and to find photographers that were willing to come shoot it. And then for florists to be able to talk to photographers and say, what do I need to do to make my designs better for images that I can use on social media, so I can get more clients, to make more money, so I can do more floral things. And so we just kind of saw those needs. And when we first started, I mean, there's been a lot of fights, sometimes a lot of arguments. But the one thing that we've always said is that we try to come back to zero and really talk to each other. But lots of times we're fighting about the same thing. We're just saying it so differently. But that was like the whole thing for Inspired Design, was to give back to what was given to us. Like, these world-renowned designers, they gave me my career. They gave me a life in flowers. And so the only way I can see to do it is to pay that back and give everything I have to those people. And I feel like that's the same with Patience, just giving them all of that,
Yeah. And I mean, if you want more information, it's basically the Sunday night we meet and greet and all that fun stuff, have some drinks, have some hors d'oeuvres. But the next 3 days are all designing all day, and then shooting with professional hair and makeup models, photographers, videographers, shooting all afternoon for the next 3 days. And most of the designs, they're done individually. They do them themselves, and then we talk about them and help them with them, and they present them. But we do like one large group project, or 2 or 3 large group projects, depending on the size of the class per day. But yeah, everything they make is professionally shot. So they're going to leave with, like, I don't know if I can say hundreds, but definitely dozens and dozens of shots that they can use
I know
all
from
their social media content.
The last 2 retreats that we've had, they had access to roughly, between the 2, about 700 images. I mean, and that's everybody's work, from, their group projects to their individuals, their headshots. And then also, we sat back and we started kind of evolving over the time, bringing in a social media person to help them like understand the different social media aspect of it. And then, but one of the biggest things was for us to make it affordable.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest, kind of our biggest thing when we first started. We wanted to make sure that it's affordable. And I've seen a lot of people out there that they've done it for $3,000-$4,000. And when we first started, we were like, all right, I remember us looking at each other like, do you think someone would pay $1,200 for this? Like, that seems like a lot to, and they were like, well, I think we can do it for like 12 to 1,500. I think we can do it. And so once we figured out that we could, and a lot of it is because of Patience's business mind, like we focus all that in and kind of help each other.
Yeah.
So,
2 things I need to add to that is, one, when Ace says we fight a lot, it's because like he's the big idea guy and I'm the, okay, but logistically, how can we make this happen guy? Like, is it fit into our budget guy? And so, but it's good because we need both of those to run a successful business. And the other thing is, we have to give a huge shout out. We have partners that work with us, and that's why we can keep the cost so low. Like Ace said, if you compare it with any other retreat, we're half price or less.
At dinner, we talked about where the next one's going to be at. And is that firm? Can we say where that's going to be? Or is that
98%
yeah,
firm?
It's, there's discussion by 2 spots, and I feel like it's probably the North American spot, the North American spot.
I think you can say it. I think, and we're pretty confident.
We're pretty confident that it's going to be on Mackinac Island in Michigan. That's actually where Hilton had this next one was supposed to be, in Mackinac, and logistically it was so hard to do. I don't think we can get it done, and we went back and forth probably what you would say 3 months of of us looking, like, logistically, I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't know if we can get our flowers there and this and that and all these things. But now with the partnership with Kennecott was what honestly made it possible for us to do Mackinac. And so, I mean, just to say you're getting to go to Mackinac Island to do flowers on and then we'll find the venue and have fun and, fellowship about flowers.
That's my dog. Sorry. Hey, Ace, we forgot one of the most important things about the retreat.
Which one?
The themed parties every night.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how could we forget?
If you've looked at the floral industry, a lot of it, people get tired of being lectured to. So, Patience and I, we're the self-proclaimed cruise directors and entertainment liaisons at Symposium. So, what year was we were actually supposed to host one of the night parties? Was it in DC or Chicago? We were supposed to do one of them, and it got canceled and
COVID buff.
Yeah. So we're always wanting to elevate. So we decided when we were going to Hilton House, like, well, we should just have themed parties. So we're having a fiesta night. We're having Hawaiian luau's. And then to cap it all off, like the final night deal, we're having an all white party. So we want to have fun. We want you to feel like when you're there, you're with family and you get to have fun and you get to do all the fun things that you would do with family.
Well, it's truly a retreat. It's not it's not just a conference or, whatever. It's an immersion retreat, so to speak. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I always like to end, and you've already given such great advice, but I always like to end. Is there one piece of advice that you want to leave with our listeners? And it can be about anything you want it to be, but I feel like I wanted to give you guys that opportunity.
I would say always choose community over competition. And put your heart into it. Like, don't design with your head, design with your heart. Because once you do that, like, everything is going to work out. And the other thing is throw every egg you have into that one basket, take away your safety net. If you're scared that you're going to fail, you won't, because you have no safety net. So you're going to work a lot harder.
I like that.
I was so scared you were going to take mine, Ace. You didn't, but I agree with what you said. My piece of advice, and I've said this from at the bottom of every bio I've ever sent out to any program I'm ever doing, it's like education is the key to success. It really is. And Ace and I are, we
Living
still take
proof.
classes. We still, I mean, I'm old and I've been doing this forever. And like, I still take classes. I still get excited when I see so-and-so's teaching a class about something I want to learn about. So,
Mhm.
like we talked about, like, make sure you're going to your state conventions, make sure you're doing all the things you can do, take classes, whether
Yeah.
they're online or in person. Never stop learning, learn from each other. And
Yes.
it is like, there's so much. I think the more you learn about floral design, the more you know you need to learn. Like,
Hmm.
you'll find out
Yeah.
about, like, ikebana, for instance. You find out about that and then you're like, oh my God, but there's these other style of Japanese like, it just keeps going. And the more you learn, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, now I want to learn about this and I want to learn about this. And maybe that's why I still wake up every morning excited to go to work, is because I'm not still doing the same designs that I did 25 years ago or 20 or 50 or 3 years ago. Like, you just have to keep evolving and learning and growing as a floral artist, and yeah, you'll be successful.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
would say also consider yourself an artist, not just a florist or the start speaking to you about yourself as you are an artist. But understand you don't have to starve like an artist. That's like the key. You don't have to.
Right.
And then like, I mean, going to keep learning, like Patience and I are headed to Floral more. I'm so excited just to go to learn from other people and just to kind of look at how they design in Europe. And it's going to be one of the greatest things ever for me.
When is that? When is that trip?
We fly to Belgium on September 20th and we fly home on the 26th. And Florimore is actually the 23rd through the 26th is the actual dates of Florimore.
Okay. Well,
So
that's definitely something to keep our eye on, because if if you're not familiar with that particular event, it can be life changing. And I'm so excited both of you are going to that, and I'd love to hear more about that later when you guys get home. That would be great. Well, y'all, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for pouring into myself and to our listeners tonight. And thank you for being on the Flower Podcast.
oh, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. It was an honor, Scott. Thank you.
Yes.